Welcome to Nerds Amalgamated, a podcast that covers the latest events in science, pop culture, and gaming.
I'm the professor, aspiring game developer, sci-fi aficionado, and completely and undeniably a geek trying to take over the world. I'll be breaking down the news from tech to gaming.
I am the DJ, a humble nerd, a big weeb,
and a watcher from the halls of the multiverse.
Just kidding. Anyways, I'll be breaking down all things comics to movies to anime.
Join us and stay hydrated as we quench you with witty banter, unintentionally hilarious hot takes, and trivia more fun than a night at the pub, courtesy of Nerds Amalgamated. Welcome back to Nerds Amalgamated. We're joined by Phoenix again this week.
How we doing, Professor? DJ, how are we?
Oh, I'm going good. It's another cold day in Australia, you know.
Cold? It was 30 degrees out there.
Hey, it's feeling cold tonight, man.
9 degrees here in beautiful Gadari and only just the start of autumn.
Very nice.
Should have snow falling.
Right, so tonight we're talking about Australia's new mandatory classifications for games that include gambling, the new Lionsgate AI, and more evidence for why we sleep. So starting off, we have the new mandatory classifications for games that include gambling-like content. Video games containing simulated gambling will be classified as R18 at a minimum, which in Australia means that you can only purchase it if you're over 18 years old. And I believe there's some restrictions about giving it to someone younger than that.
Okay.
The other major point is that loot boxes without gambling imagery will have a minimum rating of M. So for people who aren't Australian, that's not recommended for players under 15 years old.
Very in development.
Yeah, I will say this is so long to anyone who wants to buy sports games for a while.
Yeah, those have become all about the simulated gambling these days with their loot boxes and card drops and all that.
Oh yeah. Even worse is some of the games are blatantly like they look like slot machines, like the infamous NBA games, for example, and how they have that gambling look with neon lights and temptations.
To that, an almost infinite number of mobile games, which are more or less poker machines, in which you literally need to spend money, real money, to buy tickets to have a chance to get an item in order to participate in the game and be competitive, especially for certain multiplayer games.
Yeah, I remember actually, that reminds me of a talk from, I think, GDC, where a developer talked about a basically money printing technique he'd come up with. He was he had an algorithm that would generate slot machine type games based on any word that you put into it. And it would just swap the pictures around and publish it onto the app stores.
Oh.
And it turns out, yeah, if you flood the market with that sort of stuff, you make a lot of money.
With the onset of AI, it's only becoming easier to do.
Yep.
What's also going to be interesting is how many casino sites are going to be shut down as a result of this.
Well, I believe the casino sites, not that I've ever used one, I believe that they have to be 18 plus as it is because they are technically a proper casino.
And what's interesting as well is that Australia's become somewhat of an international hub. I'm reminded of an ad I saw a few years back with Samuel L. Jackson promoting Bet365, and it's now hosted in Australia. So yeah, it's interesting that this is happening in Australia with tightening up on laws against games, because at the same time, Australia is sort of an online hub for the West for online gambling.
And I saw an article not that long ago that Australia has the largest gambling losses in the world.
Wow. Is that per capita, or
I'm just trying to find a source
how many
for
people
that.
are? Is that because of how many internationals and international money is being lost through Australian gambling sites?
I've got a Statista table here. This is from 2017. Australia hits number 1 in the countries with the largest gambling losses per adult worldwide. Top going at 958.
It's almost $1,000 per adult person in the country. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I found a source for what I saw,
Uh-huh.
and it from SBS. It looks like the amount is the total gambling losses, so $32 billion in the 2022-2023 financial year,
Oh,
which is
Wow.
up from 28 billion the year before.
Casino's a good business.
Yeah, we just got a shiny new one in Brisbane.
what's also going to be interesting
Shiny and
is,
new.
oh yeah, what's also going to be interesting is the fact that you're going to see. You remember how the old Mario games they used to be all the slot machines as well?
Yeah, and for a long time,
Yeah, like
Pokemon games
Mario
had
3 on
them.
the NES. Even Mario 3 on the NES had it.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
Like,
have
can you?
to, try and at least there was an amount of skill. You had to sort of bump it
Hmm.
when to get the highest prize. But nonetheless, it operates like a slot machine.
Yeah, and that used to be a thing, and that used to be those two franchises were always about the gambling. So, and they were kids games as well. Well, yeah, well, they were primarily
Yeah.
kids games. So imagine banking it up to an M rating for those two franchises. That's gonna sting Nintendo big time.
Well, Pokemon has moved away from that for the last decade or so. Because I remember my sister playing, I think it was the third generation remakes, Ruby and Sapphire. The originals, which I played when I was young, had a gambling room in them. The remake has a gambling room, but you can't enter it.
Okay.
I wonder if this will make developers like GTA,
Oh
Rockstar
shit.
Games change anything because they have actual casinos you can go into and play, you know, play actual gambling games within the game to, obviously with GTA you don't actually have the capacity to spend, real world dollars to then go and gamble with, but
You
it is
actually
nonetheless a
do.
representation of gambling. Oh, you can now, really?
Yeah, GTA Online has always had what they call shark cards, which are you basically
Uh,
spend money to buy in game currency, which can then be, I'm pretty sure it can be converted into chips to play with at the gambling at the casino.
This is true. You can buy the currency so that you're able to go and buy apparel and everything, but then you can, yeah, also participate in gambling with it. But it is a little bit different to say a game where you've got a premium loot box that will give you an item that gives you an edge in the game against other players, and the only way to have access to it is to spend money on a loot box, or if you have you've got a random chance of getting that item, and if you spend money on a loot box, then you've got more chances, more tickets, I guess you could say. I think that's on a bit more of a, yeah, nasty level when it comes to getting kids addicted to gambling.
I mean, for if
So
it.
I've
Oh,
tracked down a document from the IGEA, the actual classification bureau had published this, and it looks like they're classifying simulated gambling as games that have interactive gambling activities like slot machines, roulette wheels, anything like that, as part of a broader game, as part of a single game, so like casino games specifically, and that they cannot provide rewards that can be redeemed for real world currency.
which
Yeah,
makes
But
that
if
does
sense.
sound
you
like
have a casino but you can't actually play casino games, you're not covered by this.
yeah. So in other words, if you can walk into an area where you're, say, doing a mission that happens to be in a casino, but you can't participate in games, then it doesn't count.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna suck. Can you imagine, like in the middle of Red Dead Redemption, it's like, okay, you gotta play blackjack to for a bounty on this high roller, but then you can't do it because the laws are stopping you. Oh, that's gonna suck.
Well, Red Dead is already rated pretty highly,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but they do note that video games have chance based mechanics or rewards, but no way to directly or indirectly use real world currency to obtain rewards, are not intended to be captured by this change.
Okay, yeah. So loot boxes where you can't buy extra goes, can't buy extra tickets to have an extra chance to get that unique item. It's just a loot box reward from taking an action in the game, and no amount of real world currency can increase the number of attempts use that loot box.
Yeah, which is going to really upset Valve,
Yeah, it's
Oh,
going to
considering
upset a lot of
the
developers.
yeah the CS:GO key economy.
oh
Yep,
shit.
yep. And personally, I think it's not necessarily a bad move. Like I think trying to get kids into gambling or utilizing what we know psychologically about gambling and those sorts of rewards and the dopamine hits and all of this sort of stuff. I really don't like to games. I think adults should absolutely have the right to go and gamble if they want to, go to a casino, and play games or go online and play cards, what have you. But I'm also reminded now of Russell Crowe. So he goes in and what he buys South's Rabbitohs,
Yeah.
the rugby club, and he removed all the poker machines from the club, which at first, people were mad at because, oh well, where are we going to generate this revenue? But over time, the it became more of a family environment, and the club recovered and to becoming competitive again, and it changed the whole nature of that club and the culture of that club. And I always supported him doing that. I think it was a great thing to do. He didn't force other people to change. He goes, you know what, I'm going to buy this thing. And it wasn't just him. I think it was him and some other, there's a couple of other owners who were with him who did that. But yeah, they went in there, they bought the thing, and they said, well, we're going to help change the culture of this club and get rid of these poker machines because we don't like
Mm.
and we think we can have a better family environment that'll be better for children and families, which will help long term the development of the club. And I think it was very successful.
Yeah, I agree with you there because like now it used to because back then gaming was used to be like pure competitiveness and now it's just money driven. Like you've seen the rise with esports and how much money you see on esports territories. Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
it's economically driven and I get it. Like yeah, it's to get the revenue and you get a lot of people a lot of attention on it, but at the same time you're putting a very bad message.
Yeah, I agree. And there's different ways of going about it. Um, Dota 2 comes to mind. The one thing that they kept that I think was good is that they raised money for their international tournament for which there's prize pools for the competing team. And that happened from the compendiums and all the different purchases that players can make. But all the things that they could purchase are only cosmetic. So there was never anything that could affect the gameplay. And so at the very least, the raising of the funds comes from the community, and then people can participate in the tournament. And anyone, if you put a team together and you rise up through the ranks and you're competitive and you win tournaments, you can make your way to TI. So in that respect, I think that was good, especially when you know what the reward is at what level. When it's not, but I hate this buying keys to unlock a chance to win something. Whereas if it's like, here's an open market, if you get to this level, here's your reward. And it's like, okay, I know what I'm working towards. I want that thing.
Mm.
And players could still play for free. You didn't have to buy it. You don't get as far. You could buy in, and you get higher levels, that sort of thing, and you get more rewards because you spent some money. But you also had the capacity as someone who didn't have the money to participate in such a way to play the game, to earn rewards for gameplay and not having spent money on it. So, in that respect, I think there's solutions to it, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the international gaming community for these tournaments when, if it affects their ability to raise money
Mm.
through things like gambling style loot boxes.
Okay, I have a question for you fellas. Like we're talking about it from a gaming perspective. How about from a government perspective? Do you reckon this is just the government's just trying to be greedy in a sense like that we want that piece of gaming pie essentially?
No, I don't think so. I think the current Australian government is quite anti gambling,
Mm.
like in general. And I don't see how changing the classifications of games is going to make the government any money.
Well, if you're an R-rated game, do you have to pay more to have that game? Is that a thing? I wonder. That would be interesting to look at. Are there any different costs for developers selling their game to the market if it's R18 plus, or
I
is it
don't
the same
believe
as
so.
any other game? So from a money perspective, if that was the case, then you could definitely argue there's a money aspect to the government trying to cash in. Personally, I think it's more about a control sort of thing. If you look at the Australian government and their actions right now,
Mm.
they're also looking to limit and control children and social media.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah,
I would argue that if anything, it demonstrates an attitude towards trying to be the parent. The government as parent, where the government says, well, parents aren't smart enough or whatever to parent their own children. It's the responsibility of the government to step in and regulate markets so that we can control or prevent or whatever their attitude is. Be it if they think they're doing good or otherwise to sort of have a bit of control over what it is that children have access. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword because on one hand, I don't think it is good for children to have access to gambling style, especially things that operate like these things, and lots of flashing lights and quick changing things, and it affects the mind, it affects the brain, and it's far more likely to produce adults who are then addicted to gambling. I think that would be, there's probably more studies that need to be done on that, but I think it's fair to assume that that's the case. On the other hand, the other side of the edge of the sword, the other edge of the, should say, of the double-edged sword is that it's also promoting, government control over, children having access to resources, for better or for worse, that, perhaps that they need, they they need that freedom in order to participate in society.
yeah. I mean, if you look, I mean, look at China for example. They've done the whole like limiting your activity and stuff, and I haven't seen the results or anything, but they've said they've it's eye opening. Let's say.
Yeah, well, China is a interesting case study in that it's arguably the most control that's
Mm,
ever been exerted over a large population in history. You could go back and suppose cite examples of, Inquisition example in fundamentalist times where you had religious state, a church state in Europe,
yeah.
and use that as an example of such control mechanism. The level of where China population is quite astounding. And again, some would argue it's for good, but I think that the negative outweighs the controls.
Hey, Professor, you've got an interesting thing you've just posted up here. The
Yeah,
classify
I
application.
found the prices to have your game classified. So, a level 1 application, which is written information about the game, costs $1,210. A level 2 application, which involves uh, written info and a video of the game, $890. A demonstrated application, which requires you to provide a walkthrough of the game to the board, is $2,460, and an authorized assessment, which includes a report by an authorized assessor, which I haven't actually found much information on yet, is $430.
And so within that, is there, sorry, just to clarify, is there any different costs then if you're a G-rated game versus an R-rated game?
No, it doesn't seem to be.
Okay.
And I have actually just found what a authorized assessor is. I just didn't scroll down far enough. An authorized assessor is basically someone who is authorized to assess a game and determine the rating. But they provide a highly detailed report with a recommendation for appropriate classification and consumer advice. So they
So that
basically
it would
help the
be, I'm
board reach a
guessing,
decision.
okay, and that would be, I guess, a third party that acts as a contractor for the government.
Yes. Here we go, actually. You cannot use an authorized assessor, which costs less, if your game is likely to be classified higher than M.
Oh,
So it
Ah,
does cost you a bit more. Not a whole
so
lot in
there
the
you go.
grand scheme of things, but a bit more to have a game classified higher than M.
Well, I suppose not a large cost to the developer, but multiply that by, say, 1 million games that get developed, and there's a bit of cash for the government.
hmm,
Yeah. And of note is that in the entertainment industries, they try to keep their product rated as low as possible so that they can have the largest possible audience. So if your game is rated R18, you're cutting out a huge chunk of your potential audience.
yeah, yeah. But then there are some games, even though the game is R18, it people will still buy it. Like a classic example would be Call of Duty. Like look, imagine like how many people buy that game and still, even though it's a really really highly rated game.
Yeah, well, this
Uh,
is the thing, I
I've just
suppose. It depends
checked.
on what you're making and who your target market is.
Most of the
But if you're
Call of
making
Duty
something,
games are M15.
Oh, okay.
Did it have a different rating? Because I know there's been examples in Australia's history where the Australian government made the rating R18 plus for games that were around the world. Otherwise,
Yeah, and for a long time we didn't even have an R18 rating for games. That's only
yes,
been a
that's
thing for
right.
about a decade.
Yes, that is true. So there were games that, and I think there were games that were banned in Australia because we didn't have an R18 rating for games. And so games that were rated, say, in the United States as R18 plus, the Australian government said, well, not allowed.
Yep.
Too bad, so sad. Because we didn't have an R18 classification. Therefore, it wasn't allowed to be sold here.
Oh, my favorite example, it'd be Left 4 Dead 2 when it was originally banned and then they lowered it down to they they lowered it down to an M after taking out a lot of the blood and gore. But then someone spread on the internet that the the one way you could to get back all the blood and gore is just change the code, a specific code in the game.
Yeah, but that would, if I recall correctly, that would block you from playing with other Australians.
Ah, okay.
And in the end, when the R18 rating came in, they released the Gore patch as a DLC.
Okay. Okay.
But,
Well, would have made the Australian
uh,
government a nice piece of tax.
oh, I had something and now I've forgotten it. One of those nights.
One of those evenings. Left 4 Dead 2.
Oh,
Fun
yes,
game.
I was thinking of Fallout 3.
Oh
So,
yeah.
Fallout 3 was toned down worldwide because of the Australian Classification Board, specifically
Mm.
the names of medicine. They had real world drugs like, excuse me, I'm doing a podcast here. Rev heads and horns all up and down my street tonight.
V8
Anyway,
out.
the Fallout 3 had real world medicine like morphine in it, and they
Ah,
changed that
right.
worldwide to Med-X.
Isn't that interesting? Because that's, really an accurate depiction in a war zone. Morphine is used heavily. I can't think of any. Let's say we go and check out some World War II cinema and TV shows. There's morphine is used and mentioned in all of them that I can think.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Saving Private Ryan, or
When
because
we,
you've got the doctor character and the use of the morphine, and
mm,
because it's a real thing, the way it's used and what happens when you're in a battle and you're running low on supply of morphine and all those sorts.
yeah. Here's a question for you guys. We were talking about in terms of gaming consoles and whatnot. We haven't talked more about the phones and tablets since those games are becoming more and more available in those two platforms. How are they gonna fix that in since the mobile phone economy mobile market is huge.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's
because the
what I was thinking
mobile
of too.
market. Sorry, go on.
No, go for it, Professor.
Okay, the mobile market does loophole the classifications board. I don't believe that they classify all of the mobile games there are. And I looked into this a few years back. Raid Shadow Legends, through a string of shell companies and parent companies and all that, is owned by a massive multinational gambling company.
Oh shit.
There you go. Why am I not surprised? Oh well, there you go. Nerds always follow the money. Yeah, it's interesting. Like I was saying earlier, the mobile games especially heavily influenced by Pokemon style, where you've got to buy more to open or spend money, buy a loot box, not guarantee the item. And then those items are used to play competitive multiplayer games. So if you don't have the best card, the best item, you're frequently beaten in multiplayer games. And so in order to have the best deck, have the performance, you need to, generally speaking, spend money. There's no store where you can just go and buy that high-powered, only buy a 5% chance to win that item or a 1% chance.
Yeah.
And that's where I find it quite nefarious.
Yeah, and that's pretty sad nowadays. Like it when you look at it from like how much money the people will spend for it, ludicrously fascinating.
Oh yeah. And so here's my question, fellas.
Uh huh.
Because you brought up with the government. Is it the responsibility of the government, or is it the responsibility of the parent? In other words, should these things be illegal, Or should there be an open free market and it is up for the parent to decide that I'm going to allow my children to have access?
Ultimately, it comes down to the responsibility of the parent. Ultimately, that's my that's how I put it. I'm not sure about the professor, but yeah.
How about you, Professor?
Yeah, there's um, not much stopping someone underage from getting their hands on adult content as it is. So I think it does come down to having a lot of responsibility on the parents to be involved in their children's lives and know what their children are doing and that it's appropriate. But
I agree.
that's not always possible, and a lot of parents just don't seem to care that much. So I don't know what sort of real world impacts violent video games have on children. They probably don't turn them into school shooters,
Oh no.
but
Yeah.
at the
Now we're
same
getting on the
time,
hot
I
topic.
think exposure to adult content isn't necessarily the best thing for children.
Yeah.
But
See,
we
from my
should,
mind, I think it comes down to the parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because just like you said, it doesn't matter how you regulate it, kids are going to, they'll find a way.
Yep. That's true.
So
That's true.
if you're involved in your child's life and you take responsibility as a parent, I think you'll find that, and hey, coming back to what I brought up about South Sydney Rabbitohs, perhaps the removal of the poker machine meant that their parents spent more time with their children instead of on the pokies.
That's fair. You were
yeah,
saying?
we are losing third places around the world. So I wonder whether the remaining third places are child friendly or not.
Mm,
I wonder if that would be a way for parents to help reconnect with their kids.
Yeah,
But we should
maybe you
move
want
it
to expand
along.
that.
Sorry,
yeah.
Phoenix?
No, I was just saying it's, you have the ability for the parents to have more activity in their children's life, and the child's more likely to follow, good advice, I guess.
Yep. Yep. That's fair.
Yeah. So anyway, moving it along. Our next topic is the Lionsgate AI deal. What can you tell us about that, DJ?
So, Lionsgate have signed a deal with the artificial intelligence research firm Runway, which allows it access to the company's large film and TV library to train a new generative model. Dun dun dun. According to the Wall Street Journal article about this, the model will quote will be customized to Lionsgate proprietary portfolio unquote, which includes hit franchises such as John Wick, Saw, and The Hunger Games. The aim is to help filmmakers and other creatives, quote, augment their work, unquote, through the use of AI. Augment their work.
Augmentation.
I mean, how would you do that though? Like, how would you augment your work?
Well,
Well, you could, for
yeah,
example. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Professor. Go ahead.
I was just thinking, like, currently AI is fairly limited to generating short scenes. So I don't know if they have access to some AI that is more competent than the AI we currently know about, or if they are getting ahead of the curve.
But that's
Yeah,
interesting
so
how. Oh, sorry.
no, yeah, so yeah, the augmentation, that could come in many forms. I'll give you an example pre-AI. Look at Star Wars, like if anyone's still got a VHS in their basement somewhere from the original Star Wars movies versus, the edited. So I'm talking about, Star Wars and New Hope. There's lots of scenes where, for example, there's a scene that comes to mind when the Millennium Falcon is trying to escape from Tatooine, and before they get attacked by stormtroopers, Han Solo goes and has a chat with Jabba the Hutt. Now, that there was a scene was filmed back in the day, and there was a man standing in the location of Jabba the Hutt while Han walked around him and talked to him. But they didn't really have the technology at the time to get the scene done in a way that, sort of looked realistic, that Jabba the Hutt was moving and talking and all of this. And so it was never included in the original. But then in the new versions, that scene exists, and so you have a CGI Jabba the Hutt talking to Han Solo, and that whole scene, as well as a number of little extra bits that are added to existing scenes, such as extra droids floating around, extra creatures, just to make the scene, I guess, look a little bit more full, or
Ah.
however you'd want to describe it. So, augmentation could happen in such a way where they take an existing work and reproduce it. Only they add to things, add, new characters to the scene, change the way the main character looks or moves, all sorts of things. To augment is, like augmented reality as opposed to virtual reality, is to add a layer, right? So you see these augmented reality games, some of them look really fun, where you're wearing a visor, and the visor makes you able to see these holographic objects, sort of thing. And so you can still see the world around you, but now you also see an augmentation of it. You could argue that Pokemon Go is such a game because you're taking your mobile phone and you're looking at the world as the camera sees it, but now there's an augmented layer there that you
Huh.
couldn't otherwise see unless you had the game running on your phone, with access to your camera. It adds that layer, it augments the reality. So I think there would be an almost infinite number of ways in which AI, which is advancing at an exponential rate, arguably, would be able to augment existing media.
Yeah, but the problem with augmenting your work, that's just I feel like it's just another excuse for say, you know what, if that scene doesn't work out, you can just take that scene away. You can just erase that scene and make it with AI. Don't worry about going through the stress of refilming the whole shoot on location kind of thing. Like this is just yeah, let's just you can do that with AI now instead of going to the location. You know what I mean?
So yeah, on the back of this article though, refers specifically to Gavin Newsom
Uh-huh.
signing into law. So this happened in September. Here we go. DJ knows I've done the deep dive. So here we go, boys, down the rabbit hole. So as part of this, on September 17, Gavin Newsom, Governor of California, has signed into law AB 1836 and
Yep.
AB 2602. So AB 1836 specifically mentions unauthorized use of a deceased personality's name. So remember from last episode, especially poignant. So
Okay.
Disney might find themselves in extra hot water because of this law. So the unauthorized use of a deceased personality's name, voice, signature, photograph, or likeness in any manner on or in products, merchandise, or goods, or for purposes of advertising or selling, or soliciting purchases of products,
Mm.
merchandise, goods, or services within 70 years of the personality's death, except as specified. So, in other words, if someone signs something to say, I'm happy for you to use my likeness after my death, then it wouldn't be illegal in California for this.
Yeah.
And in the same day, signed AB 2602, which, quote, prohibits an employer from requiring an employee or applicant or for employment to agree in writing to any term or condition that is known by the employer to be illegal. So, in other words, it would prevent these two things in combination would prevent a studio from forcing an actor to sign something that says we can use your likeness after your death without your. That's because the studio knows that's illegal. It's illegal for them to then have a contract that says it's okay to do it and require that actor or employee to sign it. So those two both came in on September the 17th, and it's all about AI and creators using AI. But I wanted to bring something up because he also signed another law the next day, September 18th, AB 2655, named Defending Democracy from Deepfake Deception Act of 2024.
Oh
And
yeah.
this is where it gets really interesting. And before I brought up the double-edged sword, in terms of, well, on one hand, we're protecting children from gambling, loot boxes, this sort of that. And on the other hand, we're actually the government stepping in, becoming the parent, overstepping this perhaps. So these laws were signed in. The first two I said September 17, and then that last one, September 18th, the very next day. Now, rewind to July 26th, 2024, just a couple of months ago, an account called Mr. Reagan on X, I believe his name is Christopher Coles, made a post on X. Now, the caption for the post clearly says Kamala Harris campaign ad parody. And the word parody is in caps. I'm just going to link it for you. I've got all my links ready to go.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, this one.
And Elon Musk share quoted it the next day, July 27th, simply saying, "This is amazing," and then with a cry, laughing face emoji. Okay, so Mr. Reagan, the account Mr. Reagan, has shared this content on X, and Elon's seen it. He thinks it's hilarious, and he's share quoted it and just said, "This is amazing," cry, laugh
Yeah,
face.
and I
And
remember
I have
that.
watched it.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, go for DJ.
Yeah, I've seen it too, and it was hilarious the back and forth that Gavin and Elon were having about this, and it got to the
Yeah.
point where Elon was just like, try me, just like come at me, bro, come at me.
Well, it's gotten pretty hot. So that was posted by Mr. Reagan on July 26th. Elon shared it July 27th, and then on July 29th, Gavin Newsom comes out with this post manipulating a voice in an ad like this, and he uses ad in quote marks, should like this one should be illegal. Now keep in mind, Mr. Reagan posted this saying Kamala Harris campaign ad parody. The word parody is not hidden. It's only one line. You can clearly, it doesn't, it's not like there was text at the bottom of a long post that you can't read at the top. It's just a one liner. It says campaign ad parody, and parody is in all caps. Elon shared it. And then Gavin Newsom has posted manipulating a voice in an ad, quote, ad, unquote, like this one should be illegal. I'll be signing a bill in a matter of weeks to make sure it is. There's the post on X from Gavin Newsom, and you
Oh,
can see that he hasn't linked the video. What he linked is a screenshot of an article, a media article, with a photo of Elon. And the article has a headline Elon Musk retweets altered Kamala Harris campaign ad. In the video, Harris seemingly exposes herself as an incompetent candidate for president. The origin of the video isn't known yet, which is obviously not true because Elon shared the origin of the video. But you notice that Gavin Newsom didn't didn't share quote Elon's post that he was referring to. He just posted a screenshot of the article. Doesn't actually link the article that he's referring to either. Okay, so that was on July 29th. And then September 17, he signs in those two laws, AB 1836, which is about the unauthorized use of deceased personality's likeness, and then AB 2602, prohibiting the employer from requiring an employee or applicant to sign something that the employer knows is illegal. And then the next day, September 18th, signs into law AB 2655, Defending Democracy from Deepfake Deception Act of 2024. Okay, so this California bill, and I'm just quoting again from a search on this based on I use Brave browser and Brave search.
yeah.
So this is a little excerpt that sort of summarizes it. This California, which is using AI, I will point out. This California bill aims to prevent the online dissemination of manipulated media and disinformation intended to deceive voters and interfere with elections. Key provisions include blocking deceptive content. Large online platforms are required to block the posting or sending of materially deceptive and digitally modified or created content related to elections in California during specified periods before and after an election. Labeling
That,
inauthentic content.
yeah.
Platforms must also label certain additional content as inauthentic, fake, or false during these periods. Now, remember that the content said
Uh,
parody, it was
uh,
comedy.
I get where you're coming from in this one. I get where you're coming from, but in terms of like in I don't know how this would work with Hollywood though, because like like it wouldn't. I don't think this would affect Hollywood in a sense.
Well, it
Just
affects
while we're on
anyone
the
creating
politics
content.
topic,
Yeah.
Sorry, go
this
ahead.
isn't the only case of people sharing deep-faked political imagery. Just today, Trump shared a deep-faked image of Kamala Harris with P. Diddy.
Oh, that's nasty. Oh shit. Anyway, I think we kind of gone down this rabbit hole. I want to bring
Yeah.
it up.
And a few weeks ago, there was the faked photo of Taylor Swift saying "Vote Trump."
Dog, I this AI is gone insane, guys. It's gone insane.
Right, DJ
This
said
is
it. Shut it down. We're all done.
we're all done. Well, this is what it brings up, right? Is what is it that people are allowed to create? Now, if you literally said this is parody, this is comedy,
Hmm.
and you're making fun, does that mean that parody skits like SNL are no longer allowed to dress up like Donald Trump to make fun of him?
Oh, and you're
How
also
is that any
Yeah,
different?
yeah.
How is
Oh,
that
I
any
think
different?
the
And it's getting interesting because Christopher Coles, who is the one who made this post on his Mr. Reagan account,
yeah.
I believe that is him. I could be correct me if I'm wrong. But he now, I believe, is looking to sue the government of California over creating this law. So and this was posted from Mario Nafal, who is an independent journalist, who I believe is an excellent journalist in
Mm,
terms of being
yeah.
just fair and open and honest and just covering all sorts of topics. So quoting his post, Christopher Coles, who made a fake video of Kamala Harris using AI, is suing to stop California's new law against deepfakes. He said the law unfairly forces social media companies to censor content and their parody videos like his should be protected.
Mm.
And then Elon also uh, posted saying, "You're not going to believe this, but Gavin Newsom just announced he signed a law to make parody illegal based on this video." And not only that, Newsom came out. He's on a video. So he posted on September 18th, the same day this law came out, saying, "I just signed a bill to make this illegal in the state of California. You can no longer knowingly distribute an ad or other election communications contain materially deceptive content, including deepfakes." And then has come out on video in an interview saying, well, sort of like a bit of a speech in front of some workers and stuff, saying that he can't rule out taking legal action against Elon and the creator of the meme for posting about him because it, quote, hurts democracy. And in response to him coming out and saying this, and I thought this was absolutely hilarious because the Babylon Bees come out and created its own new video. Only this one's of Gavin Newsom, and yes, it is AI, and yes, it uses, it's AI has reconstructed his voice.
Mm.
Only, unlike Mr. Reagan, who says parody, clearly labeled it as parody, the Babylon Bees come out saying, breaking. The Babylon Bee has obtained this exclusive, official, 100% real Gavin Newsom election ad. And it is absolutely savage. Now, obviously, it's not real, it's AI.
Yeah.
But this is the Babylon Bee's response to Gavin Newsom coming out and saying he's going to sue Elon and this other creator because quote unquote hurts democracy. Now the reason I bring this up is because I find it all too coincidental that this happens at the same time that he's quote unquote protecting actors. And I think that he's coming out with laws that are fundamentally tyrannical, and he's using his position of protecting actors' likeness to also usher in laws that protect his power
Ah.
and prevent people from making fun of him.
But that's the crazy part though, because companies are now relying on AI. Like even when I look at this article, continue on the article, it's the vice chair of Lionsgate goes, "Runaway is a visionary, best-in-class partner who will help us utilize AI to develop cutting-edge, capital-efficient content creation opportunities." And continues on by
It's
saying several of our
absolutely true.
yeah, it continues on by saying several of our filmmakers are already excited about its potential application to their pre-production and post-production process. We view AI as a great tool for augmenting, enhancing, and supplementing our current operations. So, oh,
See, there's no stopping AI. It doesn't matter what laws you try and create. Someone's going to create a new AI, make it more efficient, make it better at creating content, all sorts of.
yeah, and
So
it will
it's
and it will
absolutely going to be a boon for these studios.
Yeah, and that's what they said. Like this deal will save Lionsgate millions and millions of dollars, and the technology will be used to help make a storyboard a project before being utilized for background scenery and special effects. I don't know. I mean, AI in movie making has been has been a like a touch and go situation in a sense. Like I saw a report about an AI movie that came out not too long ago, and had a poor reception per se.
Yeah, it depends on the content. The quality of the content will, generally speaking, dictate the reception.
Hmm.
But in terms of, is it okay to use such tech? Well, how about, what's really the difference between modern AI producing versus, say, animated films that are entirely computer generated instead of relying on traditional artists to draw them?
Oh.
So think about how many movies that are all animated, cartoon style, that they don't have actual actors, but they've replaced what traditionally you would have gone and had to pay artists to draw a series of, essentially, so that you can create an animated cartoon. Only now they use computer tools, or should I say then, the past now, so there's so
Hmm.
many of them that use computer tools to create this content. Whereas the new technology is AI. And so instead of having let's say computer technician replacing the uh, original artist, now you have AI scripts and AI software replacing computer artists, computer engineers
Hmm.
who are generally creating, using their computer skills within that software to develop these animations.
Would you ever? Okay.
Is there really a difference?
Would
Is
you?
what I guess I'm asking.
I don't know. Although I have another, I have another question though. Would you guys ever watch an AI movie with, even though they didn't say it at all, like they didn't blatantly say to you this was an AI made movie? Like, would you watch it?
If it was good,
Yeah, I would watch, AI content. I'd want to see how it is. How have they done? I mean, you see shorts and reels and stuff all the time. Clips these days of people going, "This is an AI generated model. This is an AI generated video. This AI of a photo of me, and now it looks like I'm talking."
Oh
So
yeah.
you see content like this getting created left, right, and center.
Hmm.
So I can only imagine that if it looked cool and it was marketed well, the first fully AI generated movie, whether it's a remake or a augmented version of something that already exists, or if it was brand new content with a brand new story, I can only imagine would garner significant interest because it's the cool new thing. People want to see how good the AI is, and so far it seems that the best ones are the political deepfakes at the moment.
Well, it's interesting you guys mentioned that because Del Toro recently came out about AI and how he says that AI is just is now it's used for making interesting screensavers, but that's what I think he basically said.
yeah,
Screensavers.
that's the current level of AI generation for video is basically limited to screensavers. You get a clip that's like 10 seconds long before something goes horribly wrong.
Oh yeah.
And I've spent the last few minutes looking into this Elon Musk thing about Kamala Harris. And here's my opinion on it, that if something is clearly labeled as parody, it's okay. But so the original post says parody, the Elon repost strips off any indication that it's a parody. And compare that to the Truth Social posts of Kamala Harris with P. Diddy and the fake Taylor Swift one. Those are being passed off as real, not parody or comedy or anything like that.
Oh, that Babylon B one claims it's real. It takes it to the next level. Quite literally, and obviously the Babylon Bee is a parody site, and so
Mm.
everything it produces is parody. But yeah, it quite literally said this is an exclusive, official, 100% real Gavin Newsom election ad, and obviously it's not, but it is absolutely hilarious from the perspective of the court jester poking fun at the king. I fully support it. And so did Elon because he retweeted it. He reposted it on X saying his best ad ever, cry laugh face. So, it's an interesting world we live on when there's a billionaire dunking on politicians of parody, election ads, that will ironically enough highlight quite a lot of what has happened under, some might say, that person's rather failed policies in that state.
Hmm.
And it basically goes through a whole bunch of really things that are quite wrong in California right now,
Yeah.
like the massive increase in homelessness, and uses a deep fake version of his voice to say, "I've been very successful in increasing the homeless population," and stuff like this. So
Oh,
it's, it's so funny. It's so funny, but it's resulted in this action from the government to say this is now illegal. So there's it brings into view a bunch of political ramifications, and I just couldn't help but notice that this feud was happening online, and then one day after he signs these things about AI not being able to represent actors,
hmm.
he signs this thing protecting himself from AI representing him in quite clearly parody, which is very clearly protected by the free speech laws and the Constitution of the United States.
That's fair. Well, by the way, with the AI movies, there was a recent AI themed movie that came out on the Cannes Film Festival, and this was a movie that was directed solely by AI, and it was called The Second
Directed
Act.
by AI.
Directed,
How
yeah.
does that work? Directed by AI. What exactly does that mean? They asked
Um,
AI to create a movie
I think
of its
so.
own making.
Yeah, I think so.
That's
I have
fascinating.
Hey, it's like second act. It was called this. It's called the second act. There's a I tried to type it on Google and say it's a 2018 model. Oh, here we go. So, in a second, the production. It was unannounced. Read the script. So the actress read the script in one sitting and quickly accepted the role out of admiration for the director, who she described as extraordinary filmmaker whose style of humor hides an increasingly social depth through imperfect and clumsy characters. She described the film as a mise en abîme, about actors who play in a lousy film and confront their characters. So they didn't know it was an AI made movie or AI directed movie.
AI, the movie directed by artificial intelligence. I would be fascinated to read the prompts they put into the AI for that one. I'm imagining it's something along the lines of, I have an idea for a film. I want you, the AI, to direct it, and we're going to take this film to Cannes. And the AI go, great, I'd be more than happy to do that. I've been playing with AI quite a lot recently, and with ChatGPT and I've been playing around because the new model actually of ChatGPT came out. It's only in preview mode, the O1 model, I believe it is, and it's massively outperforming the previous 4.0 model. And I find, I've been using the prompts and saying, I want to do this and get a plan from it. And then it's time for
There
the
they go
AI to
again.
create something. There they go. There's the hoon. And maybe the hoons are out to try and destroy the AI deepfakes. But yeah, so I find myself, maybe I've just watched Terminator too many times, but I'll talk to the AI, say, this is what I need, and then I
Mm,
want it to create something based off that. And I always say, please create blah, 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 blah. And I don't know, maybe in the back of my mind, I hope that Skynet thinks that, I'm not so bad. And it's like we can keep this one when we eventually.
mm. Yeah, that's fair enough.
But so far, I would be interested to see if we could say, let's get on two separate accounts, and open up the script, open up the AI, and then insert the scripts only on, say, DJ, on your account you don't say please, and then on my account I say please, and other than that keep everything else exactly the same, and then see what gets produced. I think that would be an interesting case study.
Oh, that'll be fun.
That reminds me of a programming language. It's a joke programming language where you need to include politeness as part of your code. If you say
Hilarious.
please too many times, it won't work because you're groveling. But if you don't say please enough, won't work because you're rude.
Oh, you've got to be the mama bear of just right amount of politeness for it to work for you.
Oh,
Yep.
but by the way,
That's
gentlemen,
hilarious.
I've been also trying to look in. By the way, gentlemen, I've been trying to look at the more stuff on the AI director. Here's an interesting quote from the Wrap. that basically the setup for the second act, which purports to be a movie about making of the first film ever written and directed by AI. There are jokes about Hollywood, jokes about the real directors, and jokes about the AI director who appears on a monitor to tell his actors, quote, "Your opinion is not taken into account." There are also violence and surprises, plenty of opportunities for Lyndon and Saydox to spoof their own careers, and there are jokes made by the movie. Jesus.
Yeah, fascinating time.
You know what's actually hilarious with AI movies? Can you imagine they make another Rambo movie, but instead of de-aging Rambo, it'll be John Wick. It'll be like, oh crap, it's wrong AI. Oh crap, we used the wrong AI program. Crap. That's how crazy Hollywood's gonna be with the new AI models.
Definitely an interesting an interesting time because with all of this information and quote unquote information and everything flying around,
Hmm.
now you've got the ability to use it to, be creative and just do stuff for fun that has nothing to do with anyone else or their opinion or their politics. And at the same time, actors are mad because they don't want to get replaced. But it gives, ultimately, I think it's a good thing because it gives a tool. At the end of the day, it's just a tool, right? Science, can be used for good or for evil equally. And these sorts of tools give, the smallest individual in society the ability to learn, the ability to research in ways that they never could before, the ability to create on a higher level. And so I think ultimately that it's going to be a great thing. Obviously, there's always going to be ways in which this gets used and politicians don't like it and what have you, but it also means that a young kid can be learning skills. I mean, I started learning how to program when I was a kid. I was always fascinated by it. I think I was 13 years old. I started programming in Pascal, back in the day. I'm
Showing your
showing my
age
age now.
there.
Yeah, and then when I was doing my information processing technology subject in year 11 and 12, we were using a program called Delphi, which is sort of like it used Pascal as its programming language, only you had a user interface where you were able to sort of click and drag buttons into place, and then it would automatically do the code you need for the button to be there, and then you'd have to go in and code what happens when on click, when you click the button, stuff like that. And so now we've got these AI tools, and so I want to sort of explore seeing if I can get the AI, through prompts to fully code a working video game where I get it to test it, and then if it doesn't work and there's errors in the code that I go, this is the error that, let's say I choose to code in C++, and then I run it, and then it goes, well, here's your errors. And then I tell the AI, this is the error, please correct this error, and see if we can get this game to run without me writing a single lick of code, not a single character, only talking to the AI, only giving the AI prompts and responses based on what it has produced, and does it, if it runs, if it doesn't run, if there's errors, seeing if it can overcome those errors. I've got a link here. OpenAI has shared. So this is the OpenAI O1 with Jason and he is coding a video game from a prompt, and demonstrating the level at which this new version of OpenAI is at compared to the previous versions. And this has only just sort of come out. I've been having a bit of a play with it with ChatGPT, and it hits a limit and then says, okay, even though I'm paying for it or whatever, it's like, look, you hit the preview of this new one's limit. You come back in a couple of days. But here's a very interesting little video. What is it? It's 2 minutes long, and it shows this gentleman using the new O1 version of OpenAI to quite literally code a video game from prompt.
Oh,
Fascinating.
we'll check it out before we should keep on going before the professor starts falling asleep.
I'm not asleep.
No, you're resetting.
But yeah, fascinating times for AI.
So our science
So
topic
I
for
guess
this
then,
week is about
oh,
why
sorry,
we sleep.
why we sleep. Oh, right. Yeah, now I just got the pun, DJ. Well played, sir. Well played.
That's one of his better ones.
Yep, yep. I missed that. I've got to up my nerd game. I'll be ready for it next time. Well punned, sir. Well punned.
Oh, thank you.
Leading us
Thank
into the new topic. Yep. Credit where credit is due. Sorry, Professor. Please lead on.
I will once I find my place. I've just lost my place again because we've posted so much in the show notes that I've got to scroll up like 5 pages.
Yeah, I've chucked mine into Notepad.
So the latest research into sleep takes mice and implants their brains with electrodes to measure the activity of their neurons. And what they've identified is a phenomenon. I cannot speak today. Phenomenon called the. Thank you, DJ. You can stop laughing now.
Okay.
The
We can
burst,
try.
the barrage of action potentials, or BAR, with 2 R's, during which part of the hippocampus goes through basically wipes itself clean and then resets while you sleep so that you can then begin creating new memories the next day. And Phoenix, before we started, you were saying that you'd done a bunch of research into this, so how about you lead us through this one?
Yeah, so what this sort of got me thinking about, and I know we've just been talking quite a bit about Elon Musk, but what I wonder will be the effect of this when it's coupled with Neuralink technology. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you've been keeping up with Neuralink, but there's a couple of test subjects who, he's started playing video games, and this is someone who is severely disabled. So he was chosen to be one of the voluntary participants, and he volunteered to participate in the experiment. And so it's starting out very basic, but they're sort of developing the technology now that they've got the safety, and who knows how safe it really is. Long term, we'll have to. But they're starting to do different sort of tests in terms of playing basic video games, and I think he's gotten to the point now where he can play Call of Duty style game. And when asked, what's it like, he said it's kind of like playing with an aimbot in your and the response time, which makes sense, the response time is absolutely phenomenal because it's operating at the speed of thought. So when you think about the nervous system, right? And so, because I've done a little bit of study in psychology back in the day, good old Griffith University. When I met DJ back in Griffith University, good times at the campus club, and studying a bit of psychology. And I remember this study, well, not a study, but like learning about the different nervous systems. So we've got the central nervous system, but then we've also got the secondary nervous, and the messages travel at the same speeds along the neural highways, but they have shorter lengths to travel. So, for example, if you burn your hand, you put your hand in a fire, 2 messages are sent. One is sent to in as part of the central nervous system, a message to the brain. The other one is sent on a secondary nervous in the arm, which is attached to musculature. So the first thing that happens, because the second signal has less of a distance to travel, and then it is the one that means that you physically pull your hand out of the fire. The second signal is the one that travels to the brain, and then that's the one that the brain then sends a signal to go pain, and you feel pain. So you pull your hand out of the fire before, unless you've got any other physical problems interfering with that, you actually pull your hand out of the fire before the message gets to the brain, and then a second message from the brain is sent to say pain, and then you feel pain.
Hmm.
And that delay is measurable because we've sort of figured out with accuracy and a fair amount of precision the speed at which those messages travel along the neural pathways. So now, with the Neuralink technology, you can, and he wasn't allowed to play in any ranked matches, from what I understand. But as part of testing this, the capacity for him to witness an event, which is in the video game, see an enemy, and then make a decision to turn his gun in the game towards the enemy and fire is much, much faster than the amount of time it takes for the message to go down the pathway to the hand to click a button. And then based on those movements, because if you move the mouse into position, or if you move the joystick and the character into position and you miss, the brain then has to see that information and then send another message back to them. But for the guy with the neural link, it's happening at the speed of thought.
Wow.
He's just witnessing it and then adjusting in a much faster time frame. Even though it's, it would seem only to be milliseconds or whatever, or fractions of milliseconds, it has an effect. So my thought is, what's going to happen when we have people with neural links who are programming them to provide their own brains with a burst of neutral silence with a bar?
Oh, that will be that'll be an interesting thought, though. I mean, I would say it would overload the chip, but then on the other hand, I don't think, not sure whether how much information the Neuralink chip can take.
Well, I mean, it's a very simple thing to have it do. The processes that they're currently doing are far more complex. And Elon's talking now that what he wants to do is provide sight for people who have never seen. And it's going to start with a really basic form of like Atari graphics, and they're going to develop it from there. Once they've got people who, and he posted this on X, I'll have to dig it up. And so once it's going to start with like Atari style graphics, but ultimately he wants people to be able to be having the Geordie LaForge experience. And
Ah,
he also, I
nice.
believe, made a reference to what is it, Battlestar Galactica, when he said "see in gamma rays."
What's also going to be interesting is how like with stuff like Neuralink, how would they store memories and stuff? The memory part of the brain is damaged, for example.
Good question. So if you've got what Neuralink will probably help you do is to start accessing and building new neural pathways in undamaged parts of the brain so that you can form memory. Because the Neuralink's not going to act like your computer storage. The way that recall happens is not really like clicking on a file explorer. And how I believe it's seven short-term memories that can be kept in short-term memory. So you got STM and LTM. And then, there's certain tasks you can do that help write to LTM. So I would say it's more likely that Neuralink would help bypass the damaged parts of the brain to help build up new neural pathways in unused parts of the. That would be my hypothesis
Okay.
in that respect. Just trying to find this post from Elon, picture of good old
Yeah, I think I found
bullseye.
a screenshot of it.
I've got it for you. Hang on a
Ah, cool.
second. I found the X post. So yeah, he says the blind sight device from Neuralink will enable even those who have lost both eyes and their optic nerve to see, provided the visual cortex is intact. It will even enable those who have been blind from birth to see for the first time. To set expectations correctly, the vision will be at first low resolution. Sorry, the vision will be at first. Oh, so there be low resolution like Atari graphics, but eventually it has the potential to be better than natural vision, enable you to see in infrared, ultraviolet, or even radar wavelengths like Geordie LaForge. Yeah, I
Oh.
misquoted. He didn't mention gamma rays. That was just my own nerd brain going back to Battlestar Galactica. I want to see in gamma rays. So yeah, I have no doubt, getting back to the point I raised, that with something like this reset mechanism, people with a neural link would be able to produce a burst of neutral silence in the hippocampus, resulting in a better ability to store new information, have more powerful memory, and so the learning capacity, the memory capacity of people who have these devices will start to well outperform those people who don't have them. So,
I can totally imagine it now, like corporations, even Amazon, going like, "All right, if you want
oh yeah.
this chip in your head, pay like $10,000 for like the top of the line."
Well, moreover, it'll end up being that the only people that the corporations hire are the people who already have one. Right?
Oh,
Think
can you?
about it.
You
It's
know,
not
Universities,
funny, DJ.
I know.
the people who have access to Neuralink from whatever age at a younger age will
Mm.
go to university and massively outperform other students that don't.
Oh no. Oh
Right? So
jeez, that.
the same way that you've got all these organizations going, well, with robotics and AI, we're going to be, and it brings forward the question again, right? What are we going to do with the people who can't? I'm reminded right now of Jordan Peterson talking about intelligence and IQ or intelligence quotient. So, and he's going through, the different levels of intelligence, on generally speaking, what sort of tasks these people can do in society, into jobs or what have you, what the military won't accept below all of these. And so he says, once you get to the bottom 15% of people, there's nothing. What do we do with these people? Because they're human beings. We have a responsibility to society and so now, with certain organizations going, well, with robotics and AI, a whole bunch of people in the workforce are just going to be replaced by automation.
So we're seeing all
So
so we're seeing a copy of Aldous Huxley's Brave New World coming to life,
on,
essentially.
on on ways in which I don't think even the author could have imagined. Or maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe that's why they wrote about it. They already saw it coming. But the reality almost far outstrips the expectation of the fantasy and science fiction writers, because now with things like Neuralink, the augmentation of the human being, transhumanism, which obviously a lot of religious people are very much opposed to, is very much here and happening now. And you've already got people with chips in their hands so that they can tap and go with the palm of their hand. Well, pretty soon you're going to be surfing the web with your brain. While how long is it before you've got people like Neo getting unplugged from the training mechanism saying, "I know kung fu."
Oh, jeez. I can totally see
Like,
it now.
if you could have a neural link and download a DLC, and now you know kung fu, would you?
See, downloading the information is one thing, but then performing the information would be another thing
Well,
with
this is the
that.
whole point, though. What if it gave you the capacity to do the performance because
Ooh.
your brain now had the training?
But not the muscle memory though. Like look at like for example with sleep for example, it has the like sleep like when it comes to sleeping, like there is a lot of memory. You can it helps restores your energy levels, your immune functions and stuff. It also helps your memories, for example.
Yeah, we've known that for a long time.
Yeah. Like with the Neuralink, like with the Neuralink and with the DLC, like it takes away it doesn't give you the muscle memory per se.
Think you would find that if this was implemented, what we know or think we know about muscle would change. Because I get
Hmm.
the feeling that what is referred to as muscle memory is mostly just the athleticism of the muscle at the time, because it's been. I get the feeling, and I'm hypothesizing, that with such a device that could download to your brain the knowledge of the movement, that it would take a very short amount of time physically training to get up to scratch, so to speak, to develop that quote unquote muscle.
Yeah, because they're saying in this article, they were saying here, so it plays a crucial information in memory formation. When we experience something new, neurons in the hippocampus, an area of the brain responsible for learning and memory, becomes active and encode that information. During sleep, there are the same neurons repeat the patterns of activity observed during the day. This process, called memory replay, strengthens the neural connections involved in those experiences, helping to solidify the memory.
Yeah, and if you can think of anything you've ever trained, like I know for myself playing guitar, when I was at night and there was some piece of music I was trying to learn, and maybe there was a guitar lick that I was repeating over and over and over and over again, and I just couldn't quite do it. And eventually you put the guitar down, you go to bed, you wake up, you pick it up the next day, and all of a sudden you can play it. So arguably, this is something that occurs through many things, but arguably in such a circumstance, I did not yet have the muscle memory because I had never actually successfully done it.
Hmm.
I had practiced trying to do it. I knew the order of movements of my fingers and my both of my hands, fingering the string and strumming the string or plucking the string, because I had listened to the music, I had read the instructions, like I don't actually read theory music, so I've just learnt from tabs mostly. And then I practiced it myself slowly, trying to get this lick down, never quite got it. And then the next morning, snap the fingers, boom, it just comes out and it flows. So I imagine that if you could say, program this into you and then go to sleep and then give yourself a burst of neutral silence, a bit of bar treatment, get up in the morning and then get your bow staff and then start doing some maneuvers, I think it would be pretty in a very short space of time that you would be using that tool like a seasoned professional. It took, 3 to 5 years of training every day to it. Maybe you could do it in the space of a week or even days.
What did the study say, Professor, about this, by the way?
I haven't noticed anything about that in particular, about muscle memory, but we have known for a long time that sleep has an impact on your memory because it's an obvious result for sleep deprivation and also for learning in general. Like Phoenix was saying, you can practice something all day, not get it, go to sleep, wake up, and get it right away.
Yeah, because it's like the last part of the memory formation hasn't occurred until you've gone to sleep and the brain switched modes and it's been in a learning mode, it's been downloading and now it's building the final neural pathways so that you can act as like a second. It's like the first time you try and catch a ball, as a child, you're not exactly an expert at catch a ball. Do it 10,000 times and all of a sudden you're doing it without even thinking. It happens speed of
The one thing I think the one other thing people have to take into consideration with this would also be the length of time people sleep, because some it's like some occupations you would need, like, instead of like a 7 hour 8 hours of bedtime, some people would sleep 3 hours, or some
There they go again.
some people would rely, like, some people go 3 hours of sleep, or some people would go 4 hours, for example. Like, how would that affect the memories in a sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe there are, and I'm sure we can dig one up, many studies done on the effect of, not necessarily sleep deprivation, but how many hours you're getting on a regular and how does that affect memory formation.
Anyway, we should be moving along. On to
Yep.
our shout outs for this week. On the 20th of September, we passed the 5th anniversary of Untitled Goose Game. Have you guys played that one?
No, but I've seen a lot of videos about it, and it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's hilarious. It's a puzzle stealth game where you play as a goose harassing the inhabitants of an English village.
Revenge of the Goose.
Funnily enough, even though you play as an English goose in an English village full of English people, it's made by 4 people from Melbourne.
Of course it is. Do those people in Melbourne have an English background, or is it just they've got something against them?
We're Aussies. We all have something against the Poms.
Certainly not as much as the Americans, though.
And
I
our
wonder
next
what.
shout out. Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
sorry, go for it. I was just going to say, I wonder what an Australian version of an independence.
I don't want to go there. Let's not go there.
Instead of letting off fireworks, people are shotgunning beers.
So, Australia Day.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Next shout out on the 19th of September 1982, the first documented emoticons, the smiley face and the sad face, were posted on the Carnegie Mellon University bulletin board system by Scott Fahlman.
Now, that is a fascinating shout out. So that is the origin of emojis.
Yeah. Yes, the original text emoticons, which then developed into emojis, which are actual images as part of the Unicode specification. Though apparently he was not the first one to suggest a concept. It was first proposed in May 1967 in Reader's Digest, and in 1969 Vladimir Nabokov, who I believe is the author of Lolita, if that's the same Nabokov.
And they
Yep, that's
proposed
that's the one.
emojis in what sense? Because that would have been a very different concept of computing back then.
Well, what Vladimir Nabokov said was, I often think there should exist a special typographical sign for a smile. Some sort of concave mark, a supine round bracket. Oh, come on, DJ, what have you done here? You've given me the notes,
Yeah.
and you've cut them off. It says the message was recovered by Jeff Baird and read, and then nothing.
All
What
right.
did the message say?
Okay, sorry. The message says, I propose that the following character sequence for joke markers, smiley face, read it sideways. Actually, it's probably more economical to mark things that are not jokes. given current trends. For this, use sad face.
Yeah, it's very interesting as well how, the the population have now used emojis. Like you look at something like Facebook because, you can't just like something anymore. You've got different options there. And, they included a laugh face reaction. And of course, you've got two different ways to use it. You've got, oh, that was a funny joke. Ha ha, I'm laughing with you. Or you've got the Facebook version of being ratioed because you post something and the general public think you're a joke, and so they all laugh reacted instead of liking the post.
And if you talk to Zoomers, then they have a full on pictographic language built out of it.
Damn.
On to our messed up moment. Number 27. What is messed up, DJ?
So, have you guys ever heard of the grandfather paradox?
All the time, it's
Grandfather
only a
paradox.
massive classic.
Okay, so in this version, Kang the
Why don't you
Conqueror.
explain it though?
Isn't it basically if you kill your grandfather, you cease to exist?
If you travel back in time to before you were born and kill your grandfather.
Yeah.
Because I could kill my grandfather right now and keep existing.
Oh yeah. So for our messed up moment, so Kang the Conqueror has decided to do this, perform this paradox. And I'll give you the context. So, following the events of Civil War II, the Avengers were in a bad place and they were not prepared to deal with Kang the Conqueror. So, while they do their best to fight him off in Avengers #1, Kang realized there's a version of Avengers it would be easier to defeat. So his messed up plan was go back in time, visit the birth of each of the current Avengers, and then kill them all. Or kill all the babies, or androids in the case of Vision, to solidify his future plans. Now, in the comic book, that we don't see it actually happen, but there are panels of the stunned look of their of people's faces. So yeah, that's the messed up part.
And
Good
of
old
course,
time travel paradox.
that brings up my favorite implementation of the grandfather paradox. The Futurama episode All's Well That Roswell, I think is the title.
Yeah, yep, that's the
Where
one.
Fry travels back in time and becomes his own grandfather.
Classic Futurama.
Oh, the Roswell that ends well. That's the one. Yeah.
That's it.
Yep. Wait. So is Fry now the grandfather, or
Yes.
okay?
He travels back in time, gets his grandfather killed, then has a hookup with his grandmother.
Yeah, okay, yep, yeah. But by the way, for anyone that wants to know what happens in the end, it backfires spectacularly, and not only just a single dox, but a paradox.
You're lucky I don't ban you from the podcast for that. Well, on the 19th of September 1997, our wacky movie Contact premiered in Brazil, Switzerland, and Spain. This was a sci-fi movie starring Jodie Foster, Matthew McConaughey, and Tom Skerritt, directed by Robert Zemeckis. The plot is that a scientist discovers radio proof of intelligent life, and it receives plans for a mysterious machine. It was nominated for Best Sound at the 1998 Academy Awards, but missed out. At the 1998 Saturn Awards, Jodie Foster took the Best Actress Award and Jenna Malone took Best Performance by a Younger Actor/Actress Award. And the film was also nominated for Best Special Effects, Best Music, Best Writer, Best Director, and Best Science Fiction Film. It got a lot.
Yeah.
And it also won the Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation. And the book was written by the late, great Carl Sagan.
Now that I did not know. Sagan movie. Maybe that helps explain.
I've never seen it, so please don't spoil it. I've actually trying to track down a copy so I can watch it this weekend.
Watch the movie. I hate being spoiled, so that's okay. But without spoiling it, I loved. It reminds me of Interstellar, also Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
And I liked 95% of it, but it's that how it results bit that just like, well, you had such a good lead up. So,
Yeah, Interstellar does get a bit magical for my liking.
Yeah, and it's a fascinating, and then just how it how it results, and it's one of these things where it feels like you know, they had this idea for a loop, and so the ending had to fix everything else towards building up towards a loop in a manner of logical science fiction. But then the loop itself did, and it's very different in terms of but most of the movie is actually I liked the political and spiritual or religious questions that are raised in that movie. Matthew McConaughey actually plays the part of a devout Christian who is also interested, but and then Jodie Foster, obviously I guess you want atheist, and not that she's actively anything like that, but there's the clash of religion mix and all this sort of stuff is in it, and it brings up quite a number of, and
Yeah,
then the politics.
don't spoil it for him. Let him enjoy it.
Have you guys both seen Battlestar Galactica?
No,
I
I
haven't seen the
haven't.
original. Oh, damn. Nerds, we got some work to do. DJ, have you seen Battlestar Galactica?
I've seen one or two scenes of it, but not the entire
Oh
series.
my
I've seen
goodness.
what
What
was
nerds podcast have I stumbled into here?
the Zoomer Kai.
Hey,
Yes.
I'm not a
So
Zoomer.
Battlestar Galactica. I haven't seen I think the original one's from the 70s or something. And then they did
Yeah.
a newer one. I've seen the newer one. Highly recommend checking it out. I'll just leave
Okay.
it at that.
Yes. In 2011, Jodie Foster was part of a group of private donors to save SETI's telescope array in California. And the
That's
movie
cool.
famously features the Arecibo telescope in Puerto Rico, which sadly collapsed a couple of years ago. But that's all we have for you this week. So, where can they find us, DJ?
They can find us on any audio platforms. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and they can find us on YouTube as well.
So, look after yourself, stay hydrated, and we'll see you next week.
Stay happy, stay nerdy. See you guys.
Cheers, nerds.